Welcome to the Happy Dog, Happy Human podcast, where we explore the intersection between human mental health and our relationships with dogs. We hope you enjoy today's episode.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I am a human-dog bond facilitator and therapeutic interaction strategist. I am the founder of Human-Canine Collaborative, through which I support humans and dogs through trauma recovery, grief journeying, and professional practices of trauma-informed care by cultivating skills for somatic consent and nervous system regulation. I am also a licensed occupational therapist in California and hold a doctorate in occupational therapy with advanced clinical practice in community-based mental health. I have over 15 years experience working as a certified professional dog trainer and canine behavior consultant, specializing in public safety and dog bite prevention, animal-assisted activities with special populations, and rehabilitation for anxious, reactive, and traumatized dogs.
Hi, I'm Angela, the CEO of Cloud Doodles. We are a company that raises awareness about the benefits of dogs on mental health. We sell meaningful dog and human accessories to support our platform and to be able to give 25% of our profits to animal, dog, and mental health related charities. All of our patterns have a special mental health meaning and are designed and hand-drawn by me. I believe that every human and dog should be privy to the unconditional love they provide for each other. I hold a BA in studio arts and a master's of social work. I am a licensed clinical social worker in the state of California, where I specialized in homelessness and severe mental illness. I currently reside in Italy with my poodle mix Duchess, my husband, and toddler. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Happy Dog, Happy Human podcast, episode 6. I'm Angela.
Hi, I'm Sharon. I think it's actually episode 7 today.
Oh, no, it's episode 7.
Can you believe it?
No, I'm so sorry. We're on episode 7, guys. We're doing a whole new topic. And apparently I'm terrible at math, but
it's hard when you get past 5.
Yes. So we're on episode 7, which is just incredible. And we were going to talk about updates, actually. And since we're talking about episode numbers, I think we'll start with our Happy Dog, Happy Human updates. So we have mapped out the rest of this season, and we will be doing 4 more episodes in season 1, and we're in episode 7. And this week we're going to be talking about human depression, which means next week we'll talk about dog depression. And then the final 2 episodes are going to be on psychosis. And that will wrap up our season 1, which is exciting and so amazing. I can't believe that we've done so much.
I know. I'm really proud of us for doing this and doing what we said we were going to do and doing something that was scary too.
That is definitely the best feeling sometimes, just doing what you said you're going to do. And, for anyone out there listening, sometimes that's all that matters, and there is no failing. We've created this amazing bulk of information and conversations, and there's no failure in that, no matter what. So
yeah,
I just want to shout out to both of us for that.
Thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yes. And we will be doing a season 2, which we're very excited about as well. So we will take a little break in between, but our season 2 will consist of topics that pertain to societal issues. So we're thinking perfectionism, homelessness.
Yeah, maybe a punishment culture would be interesting.
Sure, that sounds really good. Maybe even consumerism. We could talk about celebrity and social media culture.
Ooh, interesting.
The topics are endless, and we would love to hear your feedback. Also, if there's a topic that interests you, our listeners, definitely pop us a DM at Happy Dog, Happy Human over on Instagram. And we would love to hear some ideas as well.
Yeah, let us know.
I can't wait. Me too. So the other update for our podcast is that now we are caught up with our care tip library. There are 12 recordings in there, and they are basically each of our care tips, easy access that you can always practice and use whenever you're in need of some mindfulness and relaxation and recentering. Our care tip library is part of our subscription that supports our show, and it is $4.99 a month. We also will be including conversations in there that Sharon and I have had, afterthoughts on our episodes, and also some other topics that have come up, such as service dogs, and having difficult conversations. Oh yeah, vulnerability. So we have a couple interesting topics in there. They're shorter episodes, about 15 to 20 minutes. So definitely subscribe, and also remember to give us a rating. If you love our show, 5 stars. Yes, on whatever platform you're listening on. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, that really boosts my mental health when I know that people are listening and that they like what they're hearing. And we just really appreciate your feedback and support.
Absolutely. All right. So now that I've given the Happy Dog, Happy Human updates, I'm going to give a brief update on Cloudoodles. We are still in our Valentine's Day spirit with our Cloudoodles Love Challenge. So check that out on our Instagram. It's the first post pinned. And we also are now moving into a topic which is not unrelated to Valentine's Day and my thought of spreading love and joy, to the underdogs of society. And that, for me, is people experiencing homelessness and their dogs. Our nonprofit that we're donating to this month is called the Underdog Community Project, and they work on Skid Row, which is near and dear to my heart because that's where I worked for a couple of years. And
in Los Angeles.
In Los Angeles, thank you. Skid Row in Los Angeles, the famous Skid Row, although there are some other ones, but I think that's the famous one. Unfortunately, there are other ones, but anyway, so that's a topic we're exploring all month long. So keep up with that as well. We might be doing a live and blog posts. And again, if you purchase anything from our shop, 25% of our profits will be donated directly to this community-based organization.
Nice. That's a really awesome organization. And I love that you're focusing on that and bringing awareness.
Thank you. And what do you have going on, Sharon?
Well, I've been doing some writing, and I finished the first draft of something called the Defining Your Conditions workbook. So this is a workbook to help you reflect on an activity with your dog and become aware of the sensory impact. So like, how does this activity feel to you? And what are some things that you would like to set as boundaries for that activity in the future? What are some requests that you can make for support so that you can have an easier time with that activity? And so that you know what tools you need to make yourself and help your dog to feel really comfortable and to both behave at your best in this activity. And this came about from my own struggles with Muggins in like being asked by other people to introduce their dog to Muggins or to say hello or to come and visit a friend or a family. And I was just realizing that I felt I would feel overwhelmed and I just wanted to say no to everything. And then I realized that I could say yes if there were certain conditions that applied, if I made certain requests and set certain boundaries. So I wanted to help other people who might be struggling with the same thing to be able to have a better understanding of what's going on and what do you need and what does your dog need so that you can say yes to activities with other people and your dog, but feel safe and comfortable doing that.
This sounds really great. And I can't wait to try this activity myself. I definitely have, as you were talking about examples, I have some examples too I can think of, where if I could go into a situation more confident with Duchess, confident in my own boundaries, I think in her boundaries, I think that would make a lot of experiences a lot more pleasurable.
Yeah, I hope so. So the workbook's going to be coming out in my newsletter first over the next couple of weeks. So hop on there at hc-collab.com/newsletter.
Awesome. Great. All right. So moving on to our care tip, number 13.
Yeah.
So I was working on our care tip library, so I know what number we're at, which is also really awesome to have so many care tips at your fingertips.
Yeah, I love that.
So for this one, we are going to do a progressive muscle relaxation. I hold a lot of tension in my neck and upper back. A lot of my stress goes there. And when I feel stressed, it hurts.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot of people experience that. So hopefully this can help someone. And it's also a really great thing to do right before you have something stressful going on, which is why we're making this our pre-care tip. So if you have a stressful meeting, or you wake up in the morning and the day feels daunting, or a stressful conversation, this is a great thing to do right before, or even before a workout, for example, that can put some stress on your body. This is a great way to start.
Nice. That's such a great idea.
All right. So you can keep your eyes open if you would like, or closed, either one in this. And what I would like you to do is actually to do the opposite of relax your shoulders. And I want you to tense them up to your ears, push them up as much as you can. And it's more of a squeezing than a tensing. So squeeze, 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 squeeze. And let's do one breath in. And hold your breath, hold it, and exhale and let go of everything. Shoulders, and empty your air as much as possible. And I see Sharon doing some shoulder rolls. So we'll do some of those. And let's try this one more time. When you're ready, now let's squeeze our shoulders up to our ears. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. And inhale as we're doing that. And hold. And exhale. Let everything go. Roll your shoulders, roll your neck as much as comfortable for you. And settle into a relaxed shoulder, neck, head alignment. Straight as possible. I like to think of a string going up from my head down my spine. So that's the posture that we want to achieve for shoulder and neck relief.
I love that. I think I'm thinking about like my neck getting longer as I relax my shoulders down and lift my head up with that imaginary string.
Yeah. Well, we're so hunched all the time over everything, because of our computers and whatnot. But I also think being hunched is feeling like we need to ball ourselves into something small. Sometimes it's insecurity, and some people talk about like power poses. And I think, being in a stance that it's confident and grounded helps us go through our days.
Yeah, you're right. I think subconsciously when I'm feeling afraid, I'll start to curl up like in this protective fetal position. And I have to like consciously straighten up and like lift my chin and straighten my back and put my shoulders down. And then I feel like more confident. I'm like, oh, I can do this.
Because we're more open when we do that. So that can feel vulnerable, but at the same time, it's also powerful.
Yeah, like a superhero pose.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So today we're going to talk about depression. Something that I've been experiencing since I was 12 years old. So it is a very personal topic for me. And also Duchess has been helpful for me in this very particular way that has to do with depression as well. So I think for this episode, I'll be speaking a lot from my own experiences and my own heart. But since we have started the other episodes with a little bit of the background, like in a more clinical, quote unquote, clinical lens, I do want to talk about depression in the context of a mood disorder, which is what you would see in the DSM, because I think that depression can be part of a cycle of a mood disorder. So it can be an up and a down and an up and a down. Some people experience it chronically, always low, low, low. And I think of it as there's a bar, and the depression is under the bar, and then what we might call hypomanic or manic, so is above the bar. And they all play a role together. This whole bar, the up and the down and the middle.
So they're all part of like one thing, which is mood.
Exactly. And I think that that's not always thought of. So when we talk about depression, we're talking about our mood. And our mood can be up, or it can be down. It can be flat, or it can be just right.
And just right, I kind of think about a just right fit, like your mood is matching what you're doing or your surroundings. Whereas if there's a mismatch, then that can be more problematic.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the word depression, and I want to talk about symptoms a little bit, gets confused with the mood sadness, because that isn't what it is. I think people can experience excessive tears and like sadness, sure, but what depression really is clinical depression, like what I call my alien, is not like I feel sad because I saw something sad on TV, which is like what you were talking about, that mood fits the situation. What it is more of an absence of emotion, and numbness, if you will. And it's like when I talk about my own, it's like a dark cloud, and I've heard a lot of people talk about it like this, that just like rests in your brain and your whole self. And then go ahead. No, go ahead.
It kind of contributes to like an outlook that you have, or a perspective that you have on life, like people, like, the phrase, looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, that would be like a positive outlook. But then depression is like, I don't know, gray colored glasses, or you like see everything with that feeling of helplessness or hopelessness, or like you said, numbness, like lack of meaning, lack of feeling.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's a really good way of saying it. It becomes like everything has like a twinge of negativity in a way. Like there's no solution, like a hopelessness, solutionless. And it can be completely debilitating.
Because there's like physical components too. It's not just emotional or mood.
Exactly. Like increased sleep, or decreased sleep. So like a lot of times mood disorders, people have insomnia, or they sleep too much. There's like eating, difficulties with eating, or eating too much. I know I also have fibromyalgia, which is something that's like highly correlated with my depression. which is like, it's chronic pain, basically, a lot of joint pain and pain in my pressure points.
Oh, wow.
And it is, for me anyway, it's very highly correlated to depression specifically. But then there's the other side, what we were talking about, the rose-colored glasses. And the other side of the mood disorder is mania, which is it's a high mood. And that's something that I've also experienced. And the way that I describe it is that it is almost like you're so excited that it's scary.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Like it's too much excitement. It's and it's not happiness. I think people also often have that misconception, like it's someone that's super happy, but it's too excited. It's too much.
Yeah, like your engine is going too fast, or like your nervous system can't stop moving, and like it feels like you can't control it.
Absolutely. And then that, speaking of nervous system dysregulation in that sense, also, like I can think about when I have been in that state, like grinding my teeth, or my hands will physically shake, or my leg shakes, like it's like an inability to sit still, because it's overactive.
Yeah.
Nervous system is overactive,
over mobilized.
Yeah.
So the depression would be the opposite, like difficulty getting going, like immobilized nervous system is what I think. Like that, how movement, it feels so difficult, feels like there's resistance to the movement, or a heaviness, or like slow, like everything is so slow paced.
Yeah. And I've definitely also like can relate to that, what you exactly were saying, like getting up in the morning and it just feels like a bag of rocks are like pulling me down, and like I just cannot get up.
Wow.
And I think first, another thing I want to add to this is that mood disorders, like really the disorder, and before even talking about that, like everybody goes through mood fluctuations. Like this is also very normal. And I want to normalize that because we're talking in the DSM disorder sort of terminology. I think it's important to acknowledge that. And I think what happens is, for some people, because of certain stressors in their lives, or whether it's chemical, I mean, we don't, nature versus nurture, like we're not sure. We cross a threshold that goes into the depression or mania, which doesn't feel like you. Like it really feels like there's a different person that's just kind of taken over in a way.
So it makes sense then you would describe it as an alien.
Yeah.
Like you lose your sense of self in a way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
But I appreciate hearing the normalization of it. Like depression is one of the emotions, or one of the states that our nervous system can be in, and it can be very normal. Have you ever heard the saying that it's that you're not, it's like a sign of ill health if you are well adjusted to a broken society, or something, that saying. So almost like depression can be a very normal response to climate change, or our political situation, or the systemic racism that continues indefinitely.
Well, and also if we think about like the lockdowns, all of these mental health issues went up. And I really appreciate what you're saying, because I constantly, when we're talking about these things, I want to veer away from making it a problem of the person.
Yeah.
It's a problem. It's a person responding to something.
Right.
And in their environment, I think most of the time. And maybe there's a predisposition. I mean, also everybody's different. I remember reading in the book Sapiens. Have you read that book?
I have not.
Oh, definitely. Highly recommend to everybody. It's one of those like life-changing books.
Oh, excellent.
Just to get you thinking, maybe you don't agree with everything in it, but it's life-changing in the terms of how you think about history
Nice.
and the human condition. And anyway, he talks about, the author talks about how every human is wired to be in a different emotional mood, and our baseline is different, and it varies person to person, and that's just the way it is also, which I find really fascinating. Because if I think about myself, like I just tend to be this sounds quite negative, but I tend to be kind of depressive. That's sort of my state. And yeah, I mean, it's something that I struggle with a lot, but also when I think about it like that, there's like an acceptance piece that it's like, okay, like this is also just part of who I am. When I'm not in this sort of like clinical zone where I can't function. And this is, again, like we're going back to like, okay, we can normalize some of these mood fluctuations, or that like we have different baseline mood states. Some person may be more energetic and excited and happy, and some people may be in a little bit of a lower, more monotone state most of the time. And I don't know, like, do we need to be calling those things disorders?
That's a good point, because I feel like that would lead to, well, like accepting everybody's baseline state for like the beautiful diversity that creates. It makes me think like how important each person's baseline perspective is. You can't have everybody be optimistic and positive all the time. We need different perspectives and different viewpoints on things and different responses to what's happening.
I completely agree. And I think that that's one of the things I was actually going to say even before you said that, but it ties into it. Like one of the things that I appreciate about I'm not going to talk about this like clinical depression that I've gone into and have had episodes, but when I'm more in my baseline with all of my coping skills and like feeling stable, I still have a more of a depressive perspective on the world. And it makes me a deep critical thinker. And that's something I appreciate about myself. And I hope other people out there who may be listening and are in a similar position, like don't let society make you feel like just because you're not super optimistic all the time, that there's something wrong with you. It's quite the opposite. I think it's good to have deep thinkers in the world, and people who go against, just as we need the optimistic, bubbly, energetic people.
Yeah, I love hearing you say that, because I noticed that pattern a little bit with myself and with a lot of the people that I've worked with, is this simultaneous like depressive outlook or mood, or certain mood plus deep critical thinking. And I love working with people like that, because I want to talk about those things too. Like I'm like, yeah, why are things that way? And let's explore this and like really go deep. And I don't know why, I've just always enjoyed those kinds of conversations rather than staying on the surface.
Absolutely. And I am the same, and I agree. And, like my partner's also the same, but I need someone like that too, to have these conversations with.
Yeah.
And so this is interesting, because now we're like philosophically talking about, is this like depressive characteristic, which is that's maybe a personality trait that we're talking about. But maybe those types of people might be more at risk for having depressive episodes, which is a different experience, which we were talking a little bit more earlier with, your nervous system being dysregulated with food and sleep and having intrusive thoughts of worthlessness and guilt and, feeling numb, feeling like you can't do anything because you're good for nothing, then that's being taken into a realm where your mood is so severe that you're unable to function. I don't even know if I love that word, but it's like unable to care for yourself emotionally, physically.
Yeah, unable to do the things that you need to do in your everyday life.
Yeah, exactly. And also, mood disorders lead to suicide often, which is important to talk about. And which is also something that I have personally experienced. And I've been feeling suicidal a lot in my life. And, that's also something that I think the reason I'm also just bringing this up in my personal experiences is because I think there's just so much stigma around depression and suicide, and like even the word depression, like I was saying before, that people just think it's sad. Like, you're sad. Why don't you just get over it?
Yeah.
Or why would this person kill themselves? They had such a bright future. I think there's just like a really big lack of communal understanding of what this experience is like. And mind you, it's after anxiety, this is the highest, quote unquote, diagnosed mental health condition. Wow. So a lot of people experience it. Yeah. At some point in their life, and it can be triggered by stress. It's not just something that you're born with. Yeah.
Yeah. And it might not also be a situation that everyone would call traumatic or negative in some way. Like the stress could be moving out of your home and going to college, or a wedding, or having a kid, or, like things that we were talking about this in our grief episode 5, where it's like sometimes a positive event has a level of stress that can result in a negative response.
Absolutely. I mean, I was just thinking, this comes up for me because I've heard this multiple times from different people and experienced it at my own college, where people kill themselves after handing in their thesis.
Oh, wow.
Which is interesting because it's the stress, the culmination, and like that should be a time of, okay, it's done.
Yeah.
It's positive, right?
Oh, I relate to that so much. And I'm wondering also would you be interested in doing a practice of asking the question?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So one of the most important things to do when you are concerned about somebody having suicidal ideation, which just means you're concerned that someone is thinking about killing themselves. One of the most important things to do is to explicitly ask. And so you would say, "Hey, Angela, are you thinking of killing yourself?"
And then I would respond appropriately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for asking me that.
You're welcome. Would you like to ask me?
Yes. Karen, Karen. I just called you Karen.
You can ask Karen. It's fine.
It's good sometimes to laugh when we're talking about serious things too.
I think that was an important Freudian slip.
Yeah, it was good. Karen. Sharon, are you thinking of killing yourself?
No, not today, but I have in the past.
Thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah. Yeah. And I was thinking about how you said there have been these experiences where people take their life or kill themselves after handing in a thesis. And I remember when I finished graduate school, I had a lot of suicidal ideation. after that. And mine was not not in the sense that I would like carry out a plan. It was more like I'd be driving on the freeway and think like, if I died in a car accident right now, that would be fine. And I would just have that thought, like a couple times a week or every week, and yeah, it was just like this. I feel like I'm done. I'm done. I did everything.
Well, I mean, it makes sense in a way, like now that you're describing it, that it's just this thing that your entire life is, your whole worth is put into this thesis. And when it's done, one, it's like the release of the stress, but also just the feeling of loss, like you're completely lost and you don't know what's next. Like there's so many intense emotions that come with that. And I can imagine that that's a common thing for people to experience and think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know?
especially if like maybe the schooling didn't go the way you thought, or you didn't end up in the place you thought you were going to be at the end of that.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, college and graduate school are really, really stressful. Like,
Yeah, they
extremely
are.
stressful. College students are a at-risk population. They are at risk for depression and illness and trauma and suicidal ideation.
Absolutely. And also, since we're talking about suicide ideation, I want to, in a way, like also normalize that for people experiencing depression. I think most people do. And I think a common reaction to something like, oh, I just want to, I'm thinking about these things, but I don't actually want to do them, is for someone to freak out. And I think it's also when somebody shares that with you, it's important to be like, I hear you.
Yeah.
Like I hear that it's so bad, whatever is going on right now, that your brain would rather just not be here at all. Like that's what it is. And I actually experienced I don't even want to categorize this as postpartum depression, but I have depressive issues. I was under an enormous amount of stress after having my newborn in the middle of a pandemic, lockdowns. My mother was not able to be there, or father. I had no help. And I had a lot of suicide ideation at the time. And again, like, I don't even want to categorize this as like I was clinically depressed, because I wasn't. I was just in such a stressful situation that sometimes I would be rocking her to sleep. My throat is hoarse. My nipples are raw. My legs hurt, whatever. And the thought would cross my mind. Like, I just don't, I want anything but to be here. Like that's the feeling. And I think that that's why sometimes we have those suicide ideation. It occurred to me at that moment, because I've had this a lot my whole life, that I was like, this is what's really going on for me. It's not that I want to kill myself. It's just that this is such a bad feeling that I would do anything to not be here.
Wow.
Feeling like this,
Yeah, it sounds really overwhelming and really lonely, and like you need support and you don't have it.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people who are experiencing like more quote unquote, I'm always going to say quote unquote clinical depressive episodes, and they're having suicide ideation, I think a lot of the time it's because of this as well, that they're feeling so overwhelmed and so just feels like nothing will make them feel better, that they would rather, or their brain at least starts shooting invasive thoughts about killing themselves, because I would rather be anywhere but in this state.
Yeah, it's like the brain is scrambling for a solution, a way out, and an explanation too.
Yeah, I think both. And I think what you said, it's also, if you translate those suicide ideation into what do you really need, and it's to be seen, love, support, a hug. And that's what I personally learned to do with my own suicide ideation, is to look at it and examine it and say, okay, what is what's going on? Like, what do I need right now that I feel this desperate, that my brain is like telling me these things? Because it's not me saying kill yourself. It's a little voice. It's invasive. It's intrusive thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that you're kind of looking at, you're trying to be objective and observe what's happening and recognize that, okay, this thought is coming up and that's a cue that I need something. I've tried to do that. I've historically had a really hard time talking about how I'm feeling, especially when I'm feeling really low and dark. And I talked about this in, I think it was episode 3 on human trauma. I talked about my experience with mutism growing up. And so that impacted my relationship with my partner, Tom, because I would get into a really dark state and he would be really concerned and I would just not know how to tell him what's going on. So now I learned to just say, I'm not feeling well. And that he's like, oh, okay, something's going on. You're not feeling well. And then I ask for a hug, or he offers a hug, because he's like, I don't know what else to do. Can I give you a hug? And that helps so much to have that.
I think sometimes you need the physical connection.
Yeah.
Like the other human physical connection. And I think that's so beautiful. I have that also with my partner, because I was saying earlier, we're both a bit depressive. And so we both struggle with mood stuff, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we understand each other very well. It can be difficult because we can also bring each other down sometimes. But I've also noticed with him something similar. When he's down, I used to try to talk to him about it. And now, instead of like talking about solutions, I think that's another thing that's just, again, for everybody to hear, that's very triggering for people when they're depressed, is to have people barking solutions at them. And ironically, I'm doing it to my partner, even though I know exactly what it feels like. So if you do it, it's because you want to help. And I think I understand that now. When people do it to me, it's because they want to help. But it's not helpful. And so now with my partner, I've learned the exact same thing. I just honestly walk over and give him, I ask him if he wants a hug, and then I give him a hug if he wants it. Sometimes he says no, but that's okay too.
Nice that you ask.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think you and I are really lucky because we live with someone who understands us and who just is another human, but not everybody does. And True. Not everyone has another human at the ready. But some people who don't live with another human might live with a dog. And I think that dogs can provide a lot of touch support when we don't have access to other humans.
Well, I think dogs can be especially helpful for people experiencing depression in so many ways.
Yeah, you were talking about Duchess earlier.
I was talking about Duchess, and I'll tell why also, and actually it goes with exactly with what you're talking about. So after a ending of a 7-year relationship, I moved to live with Duchess and with a friend, so a roommate who wasn't, there all the time, even though I did have a human potentially ready to give me a hug. But it launched me into quite a depressive episode with a lot of suicide ideation. And Duchess just really saved me during this time. I mean, her just sleeping with me, her licks in the morning, her need to pee in the morning.
You have to get up.
Have to get up. I mean, I would feel like I was talking earlier, like these rocks are just holding me down, and what's the point? Why should I get out of bed? And just physical exhaustion, like it is so physical. Again, I think a lot of people say, why just get up? Like, why, what's the problem? But somebody who hasn't experienced that, like, I don't think really understands the depth of like actually not being able to get up. But with Duchess needing to pee, I mean, eventually I'd be like, okay, all right, I'll get up. And then after being outside and dressed, I would be like, all right, I guess I'll go to work. Like I put my clothes on,
Right.
and so
Uh-huh.
it would help kind of move me along, and then I would get to work, and then I would start talking to people. And for me, I'm an extrovert, and that's very nourishing to talk to people. So as soon as I start talking to people, it gets me out of my head. Oh, okay, now I'm feeling a bit better, and it would help me. Like she would help kickstart my day
Mhm.
and help me through the day also.
Mm.
Um, and also just that companionship, when I had lost my companion,
Mhm.
it was very, very important for me to have her.
Wow. Yeah, dogs love daily routines so much that, like, if we're not the one initiating the routine, then they will. And I think, yeah, for depression, that can be really supportive to have someone who is like enthusiastic, like, let's go, let's get up, and they're sweet, but they can also be patient and wait, and they're not gonna um they don't get frustrated or judge us or tell us like, just get up, just get over it. They like,
Right, exactly. Yeah, that's so true also. And also the feeling of like, I can't leave her, that was something that I experienced as well.
mhm,
Um, who's going to take care of her if I'm not here?
yeah.
A reason to live.
Mhm. Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah, it was very, very powerful for me to have her in my life during that time. And I am eternally grateful to her for that.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds like also Duchess was grown up enough that the level of challenge of caring for her was not too much. Like I
Hmm.
can imagine for someone who has that level of depression, if they had a puppy or a dog who's reactive, or something like that, that could add a lot of stress to the
Absolutely.
depression,
Yeah.
because
I
it's like
think you're
too
right.
much for you to be able to handle it at that time.
Yeah, I think you're right, especially if she had been a puppy, because I think she was like 2 or 3. So it was starting to kind of calm down a little bit.
Hmm.
So, um, or the responsibility was less. So like I could leave her alone while I went to work for a couple hours and come back, etc. So
Yeah.
it was a little bit easier.
Hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. Thank you so much for sharing your story, Angela. I really appreciate your vulnerability.
Thank you. And I share it with the hopes that this makes somebody feel less alone out there. And for people who haven't experienced depression but know somebody who is experiencing depression, I hope that this is also an insight into how they might be feeling,
Hmm.
and how to approach them. And I really appreciate, Sharon, that you talked about or that we did the practice of asking someone if they want to kill themselves, because sometimes people are afraid to ask, are you okay? They're afraid of triggering the person into feeling worse.
Yeah.
I think that's a big fear with the do you want to kill yourself question.
Mhm.
But what it really does is validate someone. And when you ask someone if they're okay and you're ready to listen, and not, just talk about solutions or get freaked out, like if you can just sit with someone through their explanation of their experience and give them a hug if that's what they want, that means the world.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And it's important to say those exact words. Are you thinking of killing yourself? As opposed to asking, are you okay? Because when you ask, are you okay? It's easy to say yes to that, but it's really hard to say no to that question.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I meant like in the instance that you're concerned about someone being suicidal, you need to ask them straightforwardly. But I think in general, what I meant is more if you're concerned about someone feeling bad, or like maybe being in this state, or you notice that they're not themselves, like just checking in with them.
Yeah, yeah. How are you doing? And
Yeah.
like, I'm ready to
Yeah.
I'm ready to hear whatever you say.
Yeah, exactly.
Mhm. Hmm. Well, I feel like this might be a good time to move into our aftercare.
I think so too. I'm excited. What are we doing today, Sharon, for
Yeah.
aftercare?
So in one of our other episodes, we did, I think it was the grief episode, we did, or maybe sooner than that. You'll have to go back and listen to all the episodes, y'all.
Yeah.
We did third eye tapping. And so today we're going to do emotional freedom technique of tapping, which is tapping on multiple different pressure points. And this can help your nervous system shift into a more grounded state or a more social state. So whether you're feeling like you're moving too fast and too mobilized, or you're feeling immobilized, this can help you get into your right fit state.
I like that. Right fit state.
Yeah. So we're going to just get comfortable in your seat, wherever that is. And you're going to start by tapping on the pinky side of your hand. And it doesn't matter which hand, but just on that meaty pinky side. You can tap with one finger or all the fingers. And we're going to take a deep breath on this point. So breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then we're going to go to the third eye point. So one or two fingers right between your eyebrows, and take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now you're going to tap on your temples. So one finger on each temple on the side of your eyes. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now we're going to go to just below your eyes. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And then just under your nose, between your nose and your lip, your top lip, breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now on your chin, a couple fingers on your tip of your chin. Breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now on your collarbone, so one hand on each side, can tap right on your collarbone or just below it. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. Now we're going to go to your armpits. So you're going to cross your arms in front of you and tap on just below your armpit. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And now we're going up to the crown of your head, tippity top of your head. And breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth. And that's the whole series. And you can repeat it if you want to, or you can end here. And if you're ending, you're just going to wipe off, kind of imagine that you sort of broke up all that stress and tension on the outside of your body, and now you're wiping it off. Wipe off your arms and your shoulders and your head. And then just shake that out. And that's emotional freedom tapping.
That was great. I really enjoyed it. It's interesting. Some of those points are, because I talked about my fibromyalgia earlier. Yeah. Some of those points are actually the ones that I have like a lot of pain in. And so like, I wonder if I do the tapping, if it actually helps with that as well.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but I would also be mindful that it might feel tender.
Yes, definitely. So just being a little, because there's a weird like in between with massaging those points for me where sometimes it's helpful and sometimes it's not. So yeah, I got to be careful with it. But I think it's these energy points where things get stuck or inflammation around these energy points.
Yeah. So you're just breaking it up and improving the flow.
Yeah, exactly. And then we've got the one on the top of the head, which is our string.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was great. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, Angela. And that's the end of today's episode.
See you next time.
Even though we are licensed professionals in our own field of work, Angela, LCSW, Sharon, OTD, and CDBC, this podcast is not intended to replace individual therapy for humans or behavior support for dogs. We approach our conversations from an exploratory, observational, and strictly personal lens.
If you are struggling with your mental health, your dog's behavior, or if you or your dog have experienced a recent traumatic event, please see the resources section on our websites for a list of resources and places that can help. Visit either www.hc-collab.com/happydoghappyhuman or www.clouddoodles.com/happydoghappyhuman. For additional show notes, including books and articles that we mentioned, please check out the Footnotes section on our websites. Thank you so much for listening. If you'd like to support the show, go to buymeacoffee.com/HDHH podcast and send us a few bucks so that we can stay awake and energized to make more content. This podcast is made possible by the collaboration between Cloud Doodles and Humankind Collaborative. Check out our websites at www.clouddoodles.com or www.hc-collab.com. Special thanks to Tom Fox at Tom Fox Photos for support with editing and production consulting. You can find Tom at tomfoxphotos.com. Also, special thanks to sound effects and story examples from Duchess and Muggins. We could not and would not ever want to do this without you.